Doug, I got the card you sent me. Is that because today is National Thoughtful Day?
It is. Just wanted to let you know how much you meant to me.
Well, it was really nice. Like, I don't know if you guys can see this out here. Doug even put a picture of our logo on the front. Man, dear JJ, the Chiefs wear red, the Giants wear blue. Your Jets suck, and so do you? Really, Doug?
Isn't that the thought that counts?
Some people will tell you to play it safe, but we're here to tell you to go all out. Welcome to the All-Out Blitz. I'm your host, JJ Wenner, and I am joined by my cunning collaborator, Doug Orth. On the last two episodes, Doug unveiled his draft plan, and then we tested it out with some mock drafts. If you missed those episodes, please make sure you check them out, especially before you draft this weekend. Tonight, we're going to discuss some QB platoons, pairings of later round quarterbacks that you can use to dominate your home leagues. And speaking of perfect pairings, to do this, we would like to welcome one of my favorite people.
One of our favorite people.
I'm sorry. Some of our favorite person. Now my grammar's all messed up. Anyway, one of our favorite people. He was with some little companies like Yahoo, RotoWire, Fantasy Points. You may have heard of them. But now he is the staff editor and writer for MB Fantasy Life. You can find him on Twitter at Jorge Martin 17. It's Jorge Martin.
Órale, mis amigos. Thank you so much for having me. Muchas gracias. This is awesome. I always smile when I'm around you guys. I got to tell you, getting to hang out at Canton was a blast, and it's something that I've come to enjoy. I mean, look forward to and enjoy every year. And God, oh, such a good time. I already can't wait for, it's like 10. What is it? 11 months and 2 weeks until the next one. So.
11
time next year.
Long.
We start the countdown as soon as we get back. Man, it is so good to see you. And I have a ton of questions for you, but something that I don't know. Where did you begin creating content?
I start Cinco de Mayo 2020. I started a little blog named Familia FFB.
Okay.
Which FFB is for fantasy football, familiaffb.com. It's still around. I haven't posted anything on it recently, but it was kind of it was COVID, and I couldn't do I had some freelance work that had dried up, and I just thought, you know what, I had this idea for a podcast for a while, and it stemmed from a family argument over fantasy football at Christmas. And what's happening around Christmas in fantasy football? It's the playoffs.
Yeah.
Okay. There were plates of tamales. There may have been beer. There may have even been a bottle of tequila.
No.
And there were arguments over fantasy football that were funny. They were well informed. They were in Spanglish. So there were insults. And it was because it came from we've got a 12-team fantasy football league. And just a little backstory, big Mexican family. My mom is the first of 12 kids. My generation is 40. My kids' generation has zoomed past 50. So it's just, Christmas is, we're pretty much going to have to at SoFi Stadium pretty soon, if we keep going. But yeah, and it's a huge sports family. And so we started a fantasy football league about 15 years ago, and it's been one of my joys and one of the banes of my existence, because I've yet to win. I'm a number one seed 5 times going into the playoffs. 4 times I got knocked out in the semis. Once I got knocked out on a Monday Night Miracle. I lost on a Monday Night Miracle in the final. So but you know what? I started creating the content. I I originally started it with two of my cousins and kind of mimicking the family argument. So we did that for about a year, and then COVID kind of and it was so much fun. The episodes are still online, and I shuddered to some of those. They were originally audio only, and then about a year and we added video, but got hooked on the fantasy football industry, made friends like our mutual friend Mauricio Gutierrez, who I consider my Yoda, my fantasy football Yoda, because he was the very first person to give me to sit down with me, and just we did a Zoom call because of course it was COVID, and he gave me great advice. He just gave me great advice. The two biggest pieces of advice he said is just create content, keep writing, keep doing the podcast, because number one, it's going to give you reps, and number two, we do not have any Latinos creating fantasy football content. He said really Liz Losa is the only one who's creating fantasy football content in English, Latina in English. And so just adding now Liz is a friend. Now I've considered you guys friends. This community has been so incredible, and it really boosted me to really think that, hey, you know what? At first the idea was we wanted to be the Mexican fantasy footballers, but you know, really the thing is the goal became really just kind of gaining a toehold in the industry. And gosh, you know, now, you know, you mentioned the steps in the ladder to get here, and now at Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life, and it's just about a month and a half into it, and it's just been incredible. And I'm as pumped up about this upcoming football season as I've ever been. And though the funny thing is, I feel like I need like another 2 weeks to fully get ready for it. But hey, you know what? The calendar stops for no one, so let's go, mis amigos.
Let's go,
JJ. Check this man's credentials. He hasn't won his family's fantasy league yet.
Well, listen, those are the hardest ones to read because you have the crazy aunt or the crazy cousin who do like they take a kicker in the fourth and they still win.
Okay, I got to get two bad beat stories real quick. One was, and this is why I forever hate kickers. 2018, I grabbed Patrick Mahomes in the 11th round. Okay, that was his breakout season. Just absolutely, I destroyed the league. I was 300 points ahead in the second place in points. It was just, and that was a standard league. So just amazing. Get to the semifinals. Kicker for the Texans outscored Mahomes, and I lost. Last year, Christmas night, I'm at the family get together, eating tamales, drinking beer with my cousins. We're watching 49ers at Ravens. I was trailing my cousin, who was actually a police officer, and he was working that night, so he couldn't be at Christmas dinner. Lamar Jackson and Zay Flowers took my team all the way to a deadlock, even down to the decimal point tie, with about 4 minutes left in the game. But then, you know, they were so far ahead, all he had to do was hand off until the last play of the game. And guess what happened? No. 1 yard kneel down. I lost by 0.1. The following week, Lamar went for like 35 points. I would have won by 40 points easily in the final. Yeah. So that is the luck of that.
Is a cruel mistress, isn't it?
Yes. So cruel. So freaking amazing. But yes, it can be so cruel. Those bad beat stories. I mean, we've all got them, but it's so fun. It's a fun story to tell. I think it's almost more fun to tell that than to have said, oh yeah, you know, I won because, you know, Lamar came back and then I had a huge championship victory. But yeah, that my cousin now has to host our fantasy football draft, which is actually on Sunday. So I'm going to hear about this a little bit more, but at least the beer will be good.
Man. Jorge, I'll let you off the hook here now. Okay, I want to ask you questions, not poke fun at you. So two questions here. I know you have a soft spot in your heart for baseball, but what about fantasy football appeals to you the most?
You know what? I love the difference about fantasy football. I mean, I'm in over 20 leagues and no two are the same. You can't do that in baseball. And I think fantasy football is just, you know, I love the weekly aspect to it. And I think the fact that really it proves that, like, even, Joe from accounting, who, picks up a magazine on August 25th and, gets ready for the draft. And if it just so happens he nails CJ Stroud in the 12th round, or last year, and it, gets or Kyren Williams or Puka Nacua, gets one of those guys at the end, just because someone said it, he can win. But I love the randomness to it. But I just love the variety. And but when it comes down to it, really, it's the camaraderie and the competition. I love to win. I love the battle. I love my phone just like almost heating up on the weekend because I'm getting all these scoring alerts. And I worry when I'm not getting a lot of scoring alerts. So, because I'm 20 some leagues, I should be getting some alerts right now. But yeah, I just, the competition and the camaraderie, there is nothing like a good live draft. Where there's, you're with people. I mean, like the Scott Fishbowl draft, I was in one of the live draft in LA, and the group that I was in, probably about 3/4 were 3/4 of our league was the same league last year. And so we just, we had to run it back. And it's the trash talk is already happening, and it's been over a month, and the season isn't even there. But yeah, there's no trash talking like what we're gonna have, like what's gonna happen on Sunday. Yeah. But I will post some pictures of the food, because it's always the best food and the best beer of all the. And I had pretty good food and beer a couple nights ago at my former Dodger front office, now front office / alumni draft. That was a good one. That was a tough draft.
You might have to fly out for the draft. I don't know.
Come on down. Sunday at my primo Hector's house, who was one of the original co-hosts. So let's go,
man. So Jorge, your current employer is doing an amazing job curating its roster. I think that's a nice way to say it. Like Kendall, Dwayne, Ian, Thor, Marcus, Chris, Cooter, like just to name a few. Like I had to stop listing people. Do you ever sit there in a meeting and just look around and go, holy crap?
I was in that meeting today. We had an all hands, and I'm looking around and I'm like, there's Dwayne, there's Ian, there's Kendall. I mean, just all these people, all these people. Cooter Doodle sent me sent me a Slack message a couple nights ago and a couple evenings ago that makes me crack up. There's hardly ever a week that goes by that she doesn't make me laugh 3-4 times. Chris Allen, one of the absolute great human beings in the world. Yes. And but also one of the sharpest minds when it comes to he did an amazing draft spots series. He went 1 through 12 and just talked about like drafting from that position in each, and it's available for free. I love it that the content that Matthew Berry's been able to make the content free. And a lot of it is due to the fact that, got a great sales team who's been able to get so many sponsorships tied up, and the content keeps flying out there into the universe, gets so much consumption, and it's just phenomenal. It's just phenomenal. But yeah, really, I mean, I've heard a lot of people say, "Hey, man, it's the Avengers out there," and it is. And you guys have been in drafts with these people. They're good. They're real good.
Very, very sharp minds. Well, Doug and I, we couldn't be happier for you, your success.
Thank you.
You are a bright spot in our world. You deserve all the accolades. We love seeing you every year. Like, couldn't be happier. We're over the moon for you and your success, buddy.
Thank you, brothers. Thank you. You guys are mis hermanos. So you guys are familia. You guys, I always would always close the Familia FFB show. Todos somos familia, and then a big salud. So yeah, you guys are familia.
Love you, brother. But before we dive into your articles, I have to get in one quick word from our sponsors. If you haven't checked out our new IDP Plus website, you're missing out. They did a complete overhaul of the site. Actually, Nate did everything. It is very nice. Head over to idpplus.com after the show. Check out the website, peek at the tools, take advantage of the special membership offers. Start your march towards fantasy football greatness today. The link and details are in the show description. All right, Jorge, I have loved the articles that you have been writing. I've been reading your mock drafts, even the standard one that was about your home league. But the most intriguing one that I read is the topic of this show tonight was your QB Platoon article. So what sparked the idea for this article?
You know what? It was it actually, a lot of it was Jared Goff's home road splits and Kirk Cousins' home road splits last year. And I looked at what their schedule looked like. And I just looked at the fact that I think last year they had one game between the two of them where one of them was not under a dome. If you just went week by week, and their ADP was both past the 10th round. And it was that was, and both of them had like banger games at home in week 17. Because I always like to, I definitely like to look at the season, like to look at the first 4 weeks, but I like to look at those last 3 weeks of the season. Because I want if I can, I want my quarterbacks playing indoors. I don't want, unless it's Patrick Mahomes, who's bulletproof, Josh Allen, who's bulletproof. But for the most part, I want my guys in nice weather. And thankfully, we've got so many quarterbacks now that for a while there, Indianapolis was just a dead end. Houston was a dead end. New Orleans, post Drew Brees was a dead end, and Atlanta. So you had those, but now you've got some possibilities there, and it's. And I just kept thinking, what if we were able to get our quarterbacks at home, primarily at home, and then look at how advantageous that would be. And I came up with 3 platoons, but there are so many more. I mean, you can platoon Tua in there. My favorite, the one though, was Jared Goff and Trevor Lawrence. Goff is home 14 of 17 games. But what's the one game, so you can all say, hey, let's play out Goff. And he's not at home 14 of 17 games. He's under a dome 14 of 17 games. He's got a game in Green Bay that, I think it's in early November that it could be a question mark, but maybe it's 50 degrees and it's not horrible. But then he's got his kryptonite game, a December game in Chicago that kind of exposed him. That's week 16. If you want to ride your playoffs on week 16, Jared Goff in Chicago, no. Let's look at Trevor Lawrence. You pair him up with Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence also has great home road splits, and he's just he's great. And I'm looking into where's that one? I've got it up here real quick. Trevor Lawrence, he's got the Jaguars in there, and he just tore up the I'm sorry, not the Jaguars. He had the Titans in there, and just he's just got a great alignment. And plus, if you make it to the finals, you got Jared Goff in San Francisco. I live in sunny California. We complain if it gets to 50 degrees. It'll be 50 to 60 degrees. Unless it's raining, and we had great weather, great football weather in last January in the NFC Championship game, and the 49ers and the Lions just went up the field on each other. So, and Jared Goff is in that game. That is one of my target games this year, because that's Monday Night Football week 17. Can you imagine needing a Monday Night Football miracle and you've got any of the players who are going to be on the field that night? That is going to be fun. Imagine chasing with Christian McCaffrey, or let's say you got Goff and Amon-Ra St. Brown, which is easily stacked. So you do that. And Trevor Lawrence on the other side, Brian Thomas Jr. has been one of the revelations this year among rookies. Could he be someone who really pops during the season, maybe the second half of the season, and becomes a very, very important target for Trevor Lawrence? I love that. Lawrence last year still threw over 4,000 yards, and he was the Michelin man there at the end of the season. He got so much stuff wrapped up around him just to keep him upright, and thankfully they set him down. But he's healthy. He did not need any surgeries. So that's why I love that. And both of them are available past the 10th round. And so you load up. So that's the other part that I left out. You load up your lineup in the first 9 rounds, and you just get yourself. You You get your elite tight end. You load up on elite, at least one elite receiver, but you get those. Maybe you get your hero running back, and then you get a pretty good RB2. You've got all that lined up, and then you go tap. Maybe you tap these guys back-to-back rounds, or first, maybe 10th and 12th rounds. Let's go.
Yeah, wheels up.
Yeah,
love that feeling.
That's good. That's good. So it's a little bit of a tribute to JJ Zacharyson, our other amigo, one of the GOATs. His late round QB, but no, this is just late round platoon, and that's a good one. A little bit. I wrote Justin Herbert and Matthew Stafford as a possibility, because I think between the two of them, I think there's only one game that's outside, and it's early in the season. So I think it's Matthew Stafford that is playing. Let me see. I got that right here. So I had Jayden Daniels and Brock Purdy, but I think Jayden Daniels is going way up right now. So I don't expect us to be seeing that, but I expect him to be gone before the 10th round in most drafts, because people are just giving him a lot of gas and to his ADP. Yeah,
that's right. Because I'm going to be the one taking him in the 9th.
Yes. And you know what? It's draft a couple nights ago, my Dodger league, where I told you there's a lot of sharks. Super flex league, 14 teams, so quarterback is even more paramount. Got to Christian McCaffrey number 1. Came back around to him, at the 2-14 and 3-1, double tap Jayden Daniels and Caleb Williams. I was just like, my co-commissioner and good friend Greg Morrison. So I just said bravo. So he loves he's gonna really be happy going for rookie of the year there.
Yeah, something that I was taking a look at, because you kind of inspired me.
Yeah,
and I'm sitting with Doug next to me. Well, not quite literally next to me. He's a couple states up. But I went to his big board, because Doug likes to rank all the teams based upon how their opponents rank. So is it a favorable matchup? If it's an unfavorable? And I tried just to find a pairing that it was all favorable matchups throughout. And the closest I could get were Caleb Williams and Kirk Cousins. So of their weeks, 12 of their weeks are highly favorable for one of them, and 4 are neutral. They only have one bad week. I'm like, that's a cheap one. Because like you said, Jayden Daniels is shooting up the boards. Caleb isn't moving up as much.
Not as much.
Just caused me to ponder a little bit.
And they're both available after the 10th. I mean, you're still getting Caleb after the 10th round. And you know what? He could be this year's CJ Stroud. I mean, we saw enough interesting, not interesting. We saw some banger plays in the preseason, and just some great instinctual play that he just came up, and his connection with Rome Odunze is spectacular. So
just his fluidity, the way he's able to move. Like, it's a natural thing that when you watch football long enough, you're just like, oh, he has that. You know
that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen to too many humans. But and Kirk Cousins, back still in a dome. He's got great weapons in Drake London and Kyle Pitts. Please, Kyle Pitts. Let's get that breakout. But definitely, and Bijan Robinson right there. You could dump him off, and then Bijan could go 80 yards for a touchdown. So. Did we need a quarterback upgrade in Atlanta? Oh my goodness, did we need a quarterback upgrade?
Oh my Lord, absolutely.
Well, count me in on the Pitts revival tour. I'm in on that too.
Please. You know what? One of the things, I've also co-hosted the Injury Prone podcast with Dr. Evan Portas for a while, and we talked recently about Kyle Pitts, and it's very much he's not rehabbing this year. He's gone through the rehab, and he's had a normal off season. So, with a healthy off season and a better, an upgrade in quarterback, I think going off as like the tight end 5th or 6th. I think we could go there.
All right, I'll go with one more question before we go with our next ad read here. Bear with me. Don't try not to fall asleep. Just get comfortable, okay?
I'm good.
As I've started my high stakes drafts over the last couple of days, I found myself not wanting to pay for Anthony Richardson at above his usual cost like I did before, because as our aforementioned Jayden Daniels usually lasts 2 to 3 rounds later. The reason this is significant is because I have been working under the belief that Richardson could break fantasy if he can stay healthy. So my question to you, what are your thoughts on Richardson and Daniels?
You know what? I actually had that conundrum a couple nights ago in the draft that I talked about. It's the Superflex draft. We had the 10th pick, and Richardson was sitting there for us at the 10th pick, which I was not counting on that. And we were between Richardson and CJ Stroud. Do we take the safe guy who's going to throw 30 to 35 touchdowns and maybe throws 4,500 yards, or do we take the guy who can break fantasy? And we went Richardson. We went Richardson just with the simple fact that again, Edwin pointed out that recovery from that kind of shoulder surgery is good, and having sat down with James Boyd of The Athletic before the season, that's available on the Familia FFP YouTube page. He just said that this guy was making plays that you just don't see normal human beings make, and he was still rehabbing his shoulder at the time. We talked in around Father's Day, about 2 months ago. But yeah, I mean, you look at Richardson, and maybe it looks a little bit like Josh Allen 2019 sometimes, where you saw what could be, but Josh Allen did not have Michael Pittman Jr. He did not have Adonai Mitchell. He did not have he did not have Josh Downs. He did not have a Jonathan Taylor to hand the ball off to and create all these open lanes. I think that offense is going to go. Though I think we made a crucial mistake, because we had Jonathan Taylor sitting for us in the second round, and my partner said, you know what, maybe too invested in the Colts, so we took Isaiah Pacheco instead. So I have a feeling we're going to regret that one, but because we could have gotten all the rushing touchdowns from the Colts. But when you look at what Anthony Richardson can do with his legs, I mean, he looks like Cam Newton when he runs with the ball. I hope he learns how to. I hope he watches tape of Lamar Jackson, the way Lamar Jackson gets out of bounds, slides, maybe watch Kyler Murray and Russell Wilson slide. I want to see that. I want to see him just sit down and play for another day. But I think there are going to be some incredible games this year, and I think there'll be some games that are kind of that could be tough. But again, it's a quarterback who's playing indoors, and when I look at Week 17, he's playing at home against the Raiders, who yes, they have Max Crosby. But the Colts have one of the best offensive lines in the NFL, and they could double team Max Crosby, and they have a questionable secondary. So if they could have that, man, that could be a fun Week 17. And by the way, we picked Adonai Mitchell and Josh Downs. We got sniped on Michael Pittman, so we're gonna be okay. But yeah, it's one of those. It's another thing that Edwin told me. He goes, "Scared money don't make money." So you can't be scared. Let's go for the gusto. It's about let's go for the big enchilada.
Jorge, you are with friends and familia here, because this is a Pro with Richardson and Josh Downs podcast. So
I'm high-fiving you both.
All right,
we got the Brady Bunch thing going on here now. So
we definitely do. But I always turn the wrong way. I have to turn the right way.
I love you guys.
So, Jorge, I'd love just to get your opinions on some different player situations. With news about Kyren Williams returning punts, fantasy football went a little bit crazy. Are you changing your opinion on him and Blake Corum?
I'm not changing my opinion on Kyren Williams. I still think he's a very good running back. I think I would still take him in the second round. I mean, I've still got a few drafts to go where there is that possibility, second or third round where he's going. I keep going back to, sitting down with Jordan Rodriguez of The Athletic, and she just was saying, that what the Rams are doing are trying to find like the right mix to keep Kyren Williams on the field for 17 games. So maybe his pitch count comes down a little bit. So instead of 20 plus rushing attempts, maybe he's 15 to 18, and then give Corum a few. But I got to tell you, you had to pick up my jaw off the ground when I read that tweet about him returning punts, because that almost doesn't make sense. You don't put your guy who isn't under. I know he's an incredibly talented runner, but can't you put Tutu Atwell back there to return punts? So come on, McVay. I mean, maybe he thinks that he's going to break. He could break off some long runs, and the Rams did have some problems with special teams last year, but I don't love that one. Do not love that one.
Doug, any thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I'm almost word for word in agreement with Jorge here. The only thing I'm going to add, I'll add two things actually. I'm not moving Williams much at all. I think I had him as an early third round value. That's about where I'm keeping him. But I was already moving up Corum, and I'm going to make him a priority regardless if I get Williams or not. The second thing I wanted to mention, and this is kind of a minor thing, but you hear people on the old X machine talk about, and I think Mike Clay was mentioning this about how Williams was returning punts from weeks 1 to 3 last year. Yeah, 3 punts. Going back to his college days at Notre Dame, 17 punts returned in total. So over 5 years, he's returned 17 punts. If you want to call that full-time punt returner experience, feel free. But I'm looking at it as you're putting running backs are already going to take enough of pounding as it is. Now, if you're going to put them in a position to get pounded, probably in the most not injury. If you're going to put a player in a position to get hit harder than he normally would, then I'm going to say his injury risk is going to increase, right?
They're so vulnerable.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine you're looking to catch a ball right there, and unless you've already called a fair catch, if the ball and a guy who's running top speed for 40, 50 yards is coming in and hits you, you get a brit. I mean, I don't know. I don't love the idea of exposing a player to that. I don't think they do that with Puka Nacua. I don't think they do that with Cooper Kupp. I think they've put Cooper Kupp back there, but more like the fair catch, not to actually be the guy. So yeah, I don't love it. Don't love it.
That's what I was going to wrap up with. You can see the pro Williams supporters saying, "Oh, they just want a pair of hands back that they can trust." Well, Cooper Kupp also returned punts too, and I would say he's probably got the best hands on the team. If it's all about getting the hands, just let him put his hand up, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Oh, that one's
this is at the very least curious, and at the very, if you want to play, I don't know, conspiracy theory game here, but it's almost like he wants to find a reason to get Corum in the second half of the season. Maybe that's just me being pro Corum. I don't know, but I don't think you put the guy out there for punt returns and say, "I want you to last 17 games." But
man,
I don't know. Anyway, going from one running back to another running back that has sparked conversation, shall we say? Where do you stand on Devon Achane?
Oh, I love him. I would take him over. I would take him over Kyren Williams. This was one I sat down with Alan Pupar of Sports Illustrated before the season, and he just, he pointed out the fact that they were really starting to work him into the passing game more. So if you could tell me he's going to get three receptions a week, so that's 50 receptions over the course of the season. I mean, that could be an extra 500 yards on top of 1,000 yards right there. And we know that anytime he touches the ball, he could go to that. He could take it to the house, because we saw it 7.8, rushing yards per attempt last year. And I mean, just ridiculous. He was over 2.5 yards higher than Kyren Williams, who was number 2. and just just ridiculous. I know he missed some time, but with injuries, but that was one of the things Edwin and I talked before the season. He did not have any surgeries, so that's always very, very important when you're seeing a guy who is not rehabbing coming off of surgery. So there is the question mark about the fact that is because he's on the smaller side, but he did bulk up a little bit more because now he trained for football. He did not train for the combine and then get into football shape. So he just spent the last 6 months getting ready for football. So I just think the fact that that plus he and Mostert, when they were on the field together, they were both incredibly effective. And why, number one, Mike McDaniel is an expert at putting together a running game, and number two, you got those missiles coming, Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle coming out from either side. You look at that and you're like, wow, you know what? He's never going to see 8 men in a box. So, and there were some questions on the offensive line, but you know what? I think the fact that he's so hyper talented and so fast in an offense that's built for speed. If he gets north of 200 touches, I mean, we could be seeing an Alvin Kamara type of year with a dozen to 15 touchdowns, maybe somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500 total yards. It could be just a spectacular season coming up ahead. And I think he is. A lot of people have talked about the second round being a round that they don't love. He and Jonathan Taylor are two guys that I'm really hyper targeting in the second round. A little bit of Isaiah Pacheco too. Yeah.
I tell you what, I don't know. I know where I stand on him. Obviously, I have him ranked, but I understand the volatility here. I think Mike McDaniel's in his third season here. This is, I think, easily the worst offensive line that he's had in the preseason. We talk about the lack of durability going back to his Texas A&M days. So, are we getting 10 to 12 games of RB1 level kind of production, or at least RB1 upside? Right. That's on one hand. On another hand, then you have potentially, okay, OBJ's out for the first 4 weeks. He was probably going to be the slot receiver. Is that an Achane tweet, or is that a Malik Washington tweet?
I think it starts with Achane, though. Malik Washington is one of the guys I want in the late rounds. It's like one of my last round picks. But no, I totally think so. I think Achane could be the third target in the third most targeted player in that offense, even over Jonnu Smith, and that could be that. Man, if that really happens, we're talking top 3 running back, at least top 5, and that could be that could be. And he's so fun. Let's get more fun. He's got Chris Johnson speed, and that is so incredibly rare. So love it. Yeah, he's a guy I'm targeting in the second round. And you know what? And here's a question for mis amigos. I got the number 3 pick with my Familia League on Sunday. How would you guys feel if I came away with Tyreek Hill and Achane in the second round?
It's a standard draft, correct?
Standard draft.
Oh. Yeah,
nice.
I do have guys I know that probably will be available in the second round. I tend to prefer Josh Jacobs over Achane.
Especially now Jacobs got really sexy a couple days ago, didn't he?
Yeah, but
sexier
in a standard league, and I think fantasy is going to move in this direction sooner or later, where we're going to, because the more hyper efficient backs we can get, the less chance. I mean, less punishment, less chance of injury, right? Yeah. So, I mean, I can definitely in a standard league, I can buy that. I'm going to switch. Go ahead.
No, I am tempted to go Bijan or Brees at number 3, just to lock down that big time running back.
The only thing with Brees is that I'm a Jets fan. Is that was a lot of receptions that added to his points last year. And if you're in a standard league, you're not getting those points.
We're getting the yards. At least we're getting the yards. So if he could get Let's say he gets.
I'm starting to get nervous about Breece Hall. This is the first time I've said it out loud, and it feels very refreshing for me to say. I'm starting to get nervous about Breece Hall.
Okay,
As a Jets fan, whenever anybody starts talking too much about a good thing,
can you hear 50 years of Jets fandom coming through in the microphone?
It hurts.
Hey, Jorge, I'm going to switch gears from South Florida to North Florida here.
Ooh.
I can't get there with Travis Etienne going in this late second round. How do you feel about him?
Oh, man, he was not good there in the second half of the season last year. But I looked at it. It wasn't – he went up against some really, really good rushing defenses in that second half of the season. And their line was so-so. You know what, where he's going, in the second, third round, I want, if I'm not getting Achane or Jonathan Taylor, he's going in the early second round, maybe even late first. I'm going receiver. I'm going to go with the receiver. If you give me the option of taking Devontae Adams, or Travis Etienne, 10 times out of 10, I'm taking Devontae Adams. I'm just gonna. I want those 170 targets, and I think Gardner Minshew will be better. Will be an upgrade over what they had last year in Jimmy G and Aiden O'Connell. I think it's going to be. Hey, you know what? Just throw it to number 17. It's going to be simple.
That's what Minshew does.
He hit Michael Pittman 109 times last year. So I'm going to take Devontae Adams over Etienne. And you know what? Kind of those rumblings that we're talking about. Tank been getting a lot of heat, so maybe he takes some of those carries. So maybe maybe Etienne isn't carrying the ball 250 times. Maybe he's carrying it 210 times, and he's on. He really did his work on volume. He is not, a home run hitter. And so I'm not getting there. In fact, I think in all my underdog drafts, I don't think I've tapped his name once.
He falls in that range where I never take him before where he's scheduled to go, and he's always gone by the time I pick again.
Yeah.
And
yes,
I just never get him. And I
don't feel like I miss him. I don't feel like I miss him. I want Brian Thomas Jr. Tell me that. And I do like to, and as I mentioned, Trevor Lawrence, but yeah, I'm not there with Travis Etienne. I would rather wait and get James Cook later. If I want to wait even later, Javonte Williams, if I'm loading up on my receivers and tight end. So, I'll pass. I've said sayonara to Travis Etienne a lot this year.
Now, Jorge, I don't know if it's me, but there doesn't seem to be as much uproar over the holdouts of Chase Lamb and Aiyuk. But do you worry at all about the effect of they're holding out or holding in, whichever they're doing, on their performances and their QBs? Like I know last year, Bosa and Chris Jones on the IDP side, they both held out. They both came in very late, and they both had slow starts. And I'm just starting to get a little bit you got to get there. Do you have any thoughts about this?
I've had my concerns over this because football is so timing based, the passing game especially, and you look at some. I mean, Lamb and Prescott were great. Maybe they're able to get that back together, and plus Lamb is happy now. The one I'm worried about a little bit is Chase, because he has his hold in, and now all of a sudden he's got some twinge. So is that him extending the hold in and he's waiting for a $30+ million contract to make whatever is hurting him feel better? Aiyuk, that one does concern me because there are so many other great weapons. Debo had a great camp. George Kittle is healthy after having that core muscle surgery. And there's that guy number 22 who's only the best receiving back in the NFL. So that one worries me. I think for some reason Lamb doesn't worry me because he's the only show in town. Chase, you've got these injuries popping up, and now all of a sudden T. Higgins is going into a contract. Maybe he gets fed for a little while. So there is a little part of me, and Ed, we're gonna release this in tomorrow. Edwin talks with Dr. Matthew Betts of the Fantasy Footballers, and they're going to talk. They talk. So check it out on the Injury Prone podcast. He's going to talk a little. They're going to spend a little time on the guys that are coming back from holdouts. For the most part, they haven't seen big. Give you a Cliff Notes version. Haven't seen a lot of injuries or slow play come up, but there also have been guys who've come off of like you talked about the IDP side. Aaron Donald held out of an entire training camp, and then he was NFL Player of the Year, NFL Defensive Player of the Year that year. I mean, of course, Aaron Donald is not a human being. So from Pittsburgh, by the way, little Pittsburgh guy, by the way.
So speaking of holdouts in California, are we concerned about the 49ers starting the season without Trent Williams? I mean, Eric Edholm, I was reading a little blurb. He reports that the Niners are 3-6 without him the past 4 years.
It's going to get done.
Even Trent at 36?
Oh yeah. He was still an all-pro at 35 last year. So
best left tackle in the league.
Hey, you know what? Andrew Whitworth, guys are taking care of themselves. Andrew Whitworth, was the left tackle on a Super Bowl winning team at age 40. So maybe he's got 3, 4, 5, 5 more years left in him. You know what? Offensive linemen, we're all old enough to remember Walter Jones, the all pro tackle. I believe he's a Hall of Famer now for Seattle. He would never report for training camp. He would just report the first week of the first Tuesday, and he'd go on and he'd have a spectacular season. So, and even Chris Jones talked about how he was fresher at the end of the season because he didn't have training camp. So maybe it's a little, but Trent Williams, it's gonna get done. They'll be. I believe Trent Williams will get done before Aiyuk gets done. Which and I never bought that Aiyuk was on his way out the door, because no trade ever. When they were talking about George Pickens, I'm sorry, what he would do to George Pickens, I'm like, no. If he goes to Pittsburgh, George Pickens better be a 49er, because that's the only way it makes sense for the 49ers. But so yeah, I never worry. So yeah, George Pickens is one of the guys I'm really, really high on this year, by the way.
Okay. I'm going to try to get you a couple of quick hitting questions here.
Yeah.
There seems to be a consensus 10 players at the top of most drafts. The three running backs, Bijan, CMC, Hall, and then 7 receivers. So the difficult question is, what players are you targeting after those guys?
Garrett Wilson's one of them.
Okay.
So he's not one of the receivers. He's like the next guy. One of the.
I have him up there, but
you have him up there? Okay.
Continue. I'm high on Garrett Wilson. I'm high on Garrett Wilson.
Puka's a guy who Puka Nacua. I think I think we might get a little bit of an injury discount on him because what he had, it's somewhat painful, but he's fine. It's not anything. So Puka, I think we're getting a little bit of an injury discount on him. I mentioned Jonathan Taylor, who's outside of that, he's a heavy target of mine. I mean, he's 25 years old. At the end of the season last year, he was running as well as any running back in the NFL. So, and again, behind a great offensive line, and he's never going to hit C8 men in a box because there's always going to be a spy on number 5. So that's another one. Let's see, and the other guys in the second round. I mean,
like Gibbs, maybe Barkley.
Gibbs, I like him. Barkley, the only thing that worries me about Barkley is Gibbs. I think is going to take a step forward as long as he's healthy, and everything says that his hamstring is healthy. And during the playoffs, even though David Montgomery was an excellent running, was great, Gibbs was still a little bit better, and he just has different speed. He's special. So, and again, running on that fast turf, it's even more special. He had a 3-week span where he was running back 3, running back 2, and running back 1. So, and that, so yeah, just, he's another guy. Plus he's going to get more work in the passing game. Because after ARSB and Laporta, not much left.
My second question for you. Believe it or not, I had Travis Kelce fall to me at 411 in a high stakes draft last night. Yeah.
Are you counting the money already?
Again, wasn't the Daffy Duck gift, right? How are you approaching Kelce and the tight end position in general this year?
He's number one. He's my tight end one. I love Laporta, but Laporta still has a guy who's going to get 150 to 170 targets in front of him. And so Laporta will get, 110 to 125. It's great. Kelce is still going to get so much work. He is just, he's still the number one pass target. So I let other people take Laporta, and then and if I don't get Kelce after I wipe the tears off my eyes, then I go target one of the other guys, because again, I've got 3 daughters who turned me into a Swiftie. So Travis Kelce is their favorite player. So I got to have him on some teams.
All right, rapid fire to end the show. A couple questions. Do you have a player or two that you find yourself taking in every draft?
Oh, 2. And I mentioned one of them, George Pickens. Getting him in like the 4th round is great. And then in the 5th round, I'm grabbing Terry McLaurin. And I think both of them, the big reason is they're the only show in town. I think Pickens is the only guy who's going to get targets. Is the only guy who's going to get north of 100 targets with the Steelers, and at Washington, McLaurin is the same thing. And I really love Jayden Daniels. So those 2 guys are big targets in line. Later on, Javonte Williams is a guy that I think we're getting a big injury discount on him. And some of the early reports that I got was that he looked sturdier and becoming more of the guy who missed tackles forced. So I think he's a guy I'm getting a lot later.
Doug, anybody for you?
Yeah, 2. One guy we've already talked about. I'm just going to go a little bit later. Blake Corum, Jalen Wright.
Oh yes, Jalen Wright, one of my favorites.
And that's one of the reasons I'm having a hard time pressing the button on Achane is because of Jalen Wright, and Achane being given the durability. I understand that Wright is probably the next man behind Mostert if Mostert gets hurt or feels his age or whatever. But there's contingent upside both ways with Jalen Wright. Mostert feels his age, gets hurt, or Achane gets hurt. Jalen Wright becomes a pretty big player.
Oh yeah, if either one misses time, I think Wright's going to be very much, and he's exactly the type of player that they have there that they need in that offense. So fast and love that call.
Now, conversely, how about the one player who, no matter how far he falls, you're just like, you can keep on falling? Like for me, Deshaun Watson always falls to me when I need a QB. And I'm always like, I'll wait another round. Who's your guy who you're just like, I'm good?
The one guy that I see falling a lot in drafts lately is TJ Hawkinson. I'm just not his injury. I think happened too late for him to be a significant player for me before Thanksgiving. And it might be too late to wait on that. So, yeah, it's TJ.
Doug, do you have a guy you're avoiding?
That's a great question. I'm looking through my list here. And this is where Jorge and I are going to butt heads for the first time in an hour. So I'm sorry in advance. I cannot press the button on James Cook.
Really?
Yeah. Yes, limited touchdown upside. Ray Davis is going to be a problem in that backfield. So I don't. I think if you get 5 touchdowns out of Cook this year, you can consider yourself lucky. Davis is a good enough receiver, and that offense is going to take a step back in general. So I could see a scenario in which Ray Davis takes more of the early down work than Cook.
I could see that because he's got, Tyron Johnson, took carries from him, and it was like, Latavius Murray took carries from inside the 20-yard line. So I could see that. I could totally see that happening.
Feet too.
Oh,
Ray has nice feet.
Oh, yes.
I'm not not in a weird Rex Ryan way. I mean, he just moves really well. Just moves very well.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I had to say something funny because I didn't want Doug to go end the show by disagreeing with our guests. So it is time to say goodbye. We'll reshare any final thoughts we have. Let everybody know where they can find us. Jorge, you may go first, sir.
Oh, mis amigos. Well, first off, thank you again. Muchas gracias for having me. This has been, I can't believe it's already this time. Yeah, you can find my work in Matthew Berry's Fantasy Life. And I always push out all my content at Jorge Martin 17. Also keep an eye out with, I'm still big supporter of the Injury Prone podcast with Dr. Evan Porras. I hated having to take a step back from co-hosting it with them. But he gives such great injury advice. So keep following him there. And last bit, go hero RB, get your wide receivers, get a good tight end, get one of the top 6 tight ends, and wait on quarterback.
Double tap.
Tap.
Even going out, the man gives great advice. That's awesome. Okay, you see the Twitter handle there. I'm finishing up my 10 big boards in 2. I guess it's more like 4 weeks, but I got a super flex big board coming out here that will wrap up my 10 of 10. And I'm going to use this time to drop a big announcement. Jorge, you'll be particularly interested because this involves one of your employers, or former employers, I should say, right? I will be starting official now. I will be starting a weekly column with fantasy points in a couple weeks.
Love those guys. Those guys are familia too. Oh yeah. My goodness, that's awesome.
That's a great team. That's a great team over there. And
Scott, Graham, Joe, the Guru. Oh my goodness, so many friends there.
So what I'll be attempting to do each week is watching all 16 condensed versions, or at least the full weeks are all 16 games. I'll be trying to watch all 16 condensed versions, the games, try to incorporate data suite information into those, and just kind of give maybe a next level read of what happened of the week that was type of thing. So looking forward to that.
Outstanding. Love it. I can't wait to read it.
Fantastic news. I'm at JJ Wenner on X. Special thank you to my friend Jorge for coming on the show. You are one of the greatest people I know. I love seeing you every year. I truly enjoy every time I get to talk to you. And I feel like we don't get to talk all that much at the expo because we're so busy, but I treasure you and I treasure our friendship. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, mis amigos. Muchas gracias. And thank you again. Thank you again for having me. This gave us a reason to spend an hour together.
We have to do it again. Doug, congratulations on your new position.
Yes. They got better. They just got better.
Don't forget the little people. Luckily, they have a good team, so they can
carry me, right?
But tune in on Thursday for the Rider Dynasty podcast. We're going to be placing some friendly wagers on drafting divisional fantasy teams. Come back next week when Doug and I talk up our guys for 2024. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, when in doubt, go all out. Boat drinks, my friends. Boat drinks.
Salud, mis amigos.
Thank you for watching the IDP Plus YouTube network. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Be sure to tap the bell icon to get notified whenever we upload new content.